Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Now, after testing their individual political strengths in the last general election, where Atiku Abubakar polled 6,984,520, representing 29.07%, under the platform of the main opposition political party, and Peter Obi, who ran under the platform of the Labour Party, garnered 6,101,533,000, representing 25.20% votes from the total votes cast. The 2019 presidential candidate and running mate of the PDP are now in a renewed talk, which they say is to rescue Nigeria from its current state. Though spokesperson for the Obi-Datti movement, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, insists the renewed talks among the key opposition figures of like minds is in the interest of the people, going by the current situation in the country. Political observers are likening it to an early but anticipated reunion with the sole aim of wresting power from the ruling party. However, Nigerians who are currently bearing the brunt of governance deficit are skeptical about the outcome of another round of a political gang-up to oust a ruling party, taking into consideration the result of similar actions in the build-up to the 2015 general election in the country. Now, it is against this backdrop we'll be engaging with a spokesperson for the two major opposition political figures in the country on the modalities and workability of the renewed alliance talks. And joining us for the conversation tonight are Dr. Yunusa Tanko, the chief spokesperson for the Obi-Datti movement. And also joining us via Zoom is Paul Libe, who is the spokesperson for the former vice president and the presidential candidate of the PDP in 2023, Atiku Abubakar. Now, gentlemen, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
But before we commence the conversation, here are some tidbits. Now, Minister of Women Affairs Uju Kennedy Ohane has approached the court of law to stop the Speaker of the Niger State House of Assembly, Abdul Malik Sarkindaji, from marrying 100 girls. The minister, speaking to journalists in Abuja on Monday, said she has also petitioned the Inspector General of Police over Sarkindaji's plan. She said a thorough investigation has been launched into the circumstances surrounding the issue, slated for May 24. The Niger lawmaker disclosed last week that he will sponsor the wedding of 100 girls, some of whom were opened by insurgency, as part of his Maringas constituency project. Now, a young man whose identity is yet to be unveiled sneaked into a bank in Dadinkowa, Jos South local government area of Plateau State, with improvised explosive device IED, demanding 100 million naira to avoid detonating it. An official of the bank, who did not want his name mentioned, gave Daily Trust a blow-by-blow account of the incident. He said it happened when staff of the bank were attending to customers on Monday. According to the source, the suspect approached a frontline teller pretending to withdraw money, but instead dropped a note to the attendant. He had reportedly said that an ID was strapped to his body and he would detonate it if his demand was not met. And again, concerning our conversation, here is a report to set the tune for the conversation. Have a look.
This week, the former Anambra State Governor, presidential candidate for the Labour Party in 2023 and 2019 presidential running mate to Atiku Abubakar, visited his erstwhile flag bearer in Abuja in what many described as a strategic move to realign forces ahead of the next election. And as the nation grapples with economic uncertainty, the two main opposition political figures in the country have become increasingly concerned about the state of affairs.
Anything can happen in the future, but at this point in time, the most important thing that His Excellency is doing is actually as regard to let us see how we can mobilize and put people out of poverty. That is his target.
Nigerians have, however, expressed divergent views on the perceived 2027 alliance talks that could galvanize a collective push to wrestle power from incumbent ruling All Progressives Congress APC.
Assuming they team together before the time of this election, I think I can remember Kwankwaso and Obi, they intend to team together at a point, maybe power tussle, tear them to pieces.
It will be very, very difficult to take back the power from APC with what we are seeing?
Of course, because of the situation. Look at the situation. Petrol. What is the current power, electricity amount? How much is it now? Look at the school fees for the tertiary institutions. We don't know this in the northern Nigeria.
Others are skeptical of the formidable power of a renewed alliance amongst the opposition political actors, saying such moves have failed to yield results in the past.
All of them, they eat in the same table. They are the same. If you look at the leaders, it's the same timbers and calibers of people. They are the people that govern in Nigeria. But my earnest prayer is that God should touch their hearts.
People are crying. Everybody is crying. Things are very tough and hard. A lot of people cannot even, for now, feed 3 square meals in a day. Some can't even feed 2.
Barely 1 year into the administration of President Bola Tinubu, who promised Nigerians renewed hope, the alignment and realignment of political interests are taking shape, with Nigerians becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the quality of political leadership in the country. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And now we take a short break. When we return, our conversation commences. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. And Dr. Yunusa Tanko, thank you once again for coming to the studio.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, okay. Let's start with the tidbits and then, and then go down to the report. You've had the conversation with the people, on the streets. We'll look at the issues raised. But let's start with our tidbit. The first is talking about, a Minister of Women Affairs taking a lawmaker to court for wanting to marry out, 100 girls in his constituency as part of his constituency project. Some will wonder, what's the interest of a Minister of Women Affairs and an affair that has to do with a constituency in Niger State. Let me get your thoughts.
Well, something similar happened in Kano State. Well, Engineer Abi Musa Kwankwaso was the governor.
Yeah.
And I think the present governor also...
Even now, about twice or so.
Yes, okay. Really, in the northern part of the country, majority of the youngsters actually get married with their parents really supporting them. The narrative is simple. The girl, of course, does not bring anything to the... they bring in all the properties that you need in terms of beddings and all, while the parent of the man preferred the house and then send dowries and all of those. So it was a symbiotic move. But nowadays, things are terribly hard for both families. Very, very hard. For the point that they hardly can even feed themselves. That's the situation in the world. And so the young boys and girls have to work hard to even see whether they can be able to gather enough funds to do the marriage ceremony, as it were. So instead of them being left in that particular open space, and then there will be a lot of illicit acts.
We're talking about girl child, for instance.
And then when it comes to issue of girl child, it's another different matter entirely. It's good that we let the girl to reach the public adolescent age in that particular before she can be able to get married. And besides, it is also good that she is well educated both in Western and Islamic education, so that it can shape him or her life, so that they could not go into a marriagehood when they are just young girls and boys. They don't even know their left and right, and eventually what really end up is that you find that there will be a lot of divorce that takes place within this particular young age marriage, because most of them maturely are not really matured in brain and all of that to think about how they will take care of the family. So it is good to review such acts without knowing them. But I think most of the marriage that took place in Kano at that time were actually matured women, divorcees, and all of those ones. So those ones are actually like well-matured individuals. So it's good to protect the integrity of these children without really getting them into a marriagehood, without considering how would they survive.
Yeah, but there is need perhaps to strike a balance, going by the justification or the driving force behind this constituency project, in court. These young girls that have been uphanded by insurgency, they lost their parents, for instance, and we know the way there's a societal decay and how some of these orphans are taken advantage of by, you know, some criminal elements in the society. Perhaps he felt that, okay, marrying them out could secure them, you know, at least from going into those things. I'm not making a case for him, but then looking at the circumstance, is that enough justification perhaps to...
Not really, because there are instances that have had issue of rape, intimidation that happens in IDP camps and the rest of them. In fact, because people want to really survive and eat, they even trade in their girls' child into semi-prostitution. It has been happening.
And forced labor.
Yeah, forced labor. But be as it may, in this situation, if it's a constituency project, you have money or funds in regard to how to take care of the girls. Why don't you engage those particular children into vocational training, into tailoring, barbing, other ways in which they can survive, and then with a little bit of education, it can help them individually to fend for themselves.
To be able to stay, you know, perhaps in their marital homes.
Yes. Then where they've reached a part of adolescent age where they are comfortable, they're comfortably okay, then you can, of course, support them when they want to get married. But at this point in time, when you engage in such marriage, it's like as if almost forcefully marrying them off to remove you from the social ill that may happen. But at the end of it all, you will double down on the mistakes, because they will engage into all kind of illicit acts, and at the end of the day, they get divorced, and then you end up not really getting the mileage in which you are looking for. So I suggest that the Honorable should really look inward in trying to empower those youngsters to make their own living at their own.
Okay, before we leave that matter, you know, the action of the minister, is it in tandem? Some will say, you know, we're dealing with sensibilities of the people like this, one need to engage properly, perhaps. Instead of perhaps going to court, perhaps you should have engaged the lawmaker and perhaps other stakeholders and even the beneficiaries before taking such a decision.
Well, we may not know exactly what steps the minister must have taken. Could she have taken this particular step that you mentioned? Has she consulted all the local chiefs and the parents of these particular children, if any, or relatives of them, or have they really been consulted as regard to look, this is what is good we think you need? The guidance and counsel department will have helped in that particular regard, and then probably the Degechi, the Hakimes, and then probably the Emir and traditional institution within that domain could have made a better suggestions as regard to how such a matter could have been handled. Maybe until when you hear from the minister, before you'll be able to know exactly what steps he was taking.
Okay, another young man elsewhere in Plateau, you know, strapped himself with IEDs, you know, went into a bank wanting to rob them. Said 100 million naira he demanded for, otherwise he would detonate and all of that. He was arrested, and he said, I learned that he said it was a prank or something, but what do you make of it?
It is quite appalling. We have gotten to this particular stage. And I can tell you some of the things is what these young boys and girls watch in the television. It happens in the movies.
They thought, you know, they want to practicalize
they want to practicalize it and all. But it is quite dangerous. And if it was in another country, they would have called in the police and probably would have been shot dead. Would have been shot dead. It could have happened. But then at the same time, for the psyche of the mind to start thinking in that direction, that will send you a red flag for our leaders to take note that people are getting really frustrated because of the hardship of life. I have met a young boy in Owerri who was a graduate of the University of Computer Science. He was about to wash my car in a hotel. So and I was asking him, why would you engage in such a job? I don't have any job. I just graduated from the university, and I've been looking for a job for years. So instead of me to go in and steal
into crime,
you know, I prefer to just wash your car and all. I had to let him off that particular day. Thank God I have some little money in my hand
to support him.
And today I think that young man has been employed because we try to help him. So you can build that particular kind of individual by making suggestions and helping in a way. So there are many of them in that regard. Many cannot even pay for their secondary school fees. They cannot, because they are looking up to their parents, and their parents too don't have. I remember another gentleman, a gentleman that I have. He is a gate man in one of these television stations, and then he was according to me that I came out. He needed help for his daughter, we have to help, but this can't go on in that way. We need to find a way of making sure that these people are properly remunerated, and those young boys and girls that want to work, there is a conducive atmosphere for them to really put in their thinking cap and work. Today, the Nigerian youth have worked so hard, very hard for themselves by working into this particular movie industry, the music industry, and then the internet industry, which of course, unfortunately, the government is trying to tax them more and more.
Right. Lastly, before we leave that and go into our topic, what does this say about our vigilance, one, and then about security of financial institutions? If this young man can go into the bank with this IED strap, and he went through the scanners and what have you, and yet he was able to go into the bank. What does this say about the safety?
Well, there's a saying that says that the person that wants your thing is more smarter than you. Of course, you must have been coming to that bank and studying the movement in that particular bank before you could make such an attempt. And don't be surprised there may be a collaborator.
Okay.
If you're going to take 100 million naira from a bank, somebody must have maybe aided and abetted him. Yes, aided and abetted him to get the particular money. So probably the money comes through. But the question is that, how do they think of getting away with such a money? Anyway, in Nigeria, it could be possible because we have a porous border and a lot of people who can easily do one thing. As long as you have money in your hand, you could easily buy your way through.
Certain things can be compromised.
Yes, you can easily buy your way through. So, but then it means that the banks need to do a double check on their security apparatus. If they do, they will have known exactly that particular person is carrying something.
Infiltrate,
It's quite amazing that such a boy could have easily infiltrated that particular bank in that such manner. And so, what would I call it? Criminal intelligence.
All right. Thank you very much. We're now going to our discussion, but we start with the report, You've had, the reactions of some Nigerians.
Yes.
I know consistently you said, it was in the interest of Nigerians. You talked about the poverty, the need to pull up people out of poverty and all of that. Polibe, on his own side, also talked about the fact that there's need for such a collaboration, even though he was not, the details of his own side is sketchy. We hope to get him to divulge more, if any. But let me get your reaction to what Nigerians are saying. You've heard them saying that, let's start with the one who is saying that there won't be any difference, they are the same, one and the same, eat from the same table.
Yeah, you see, that is the perception in Nigeria. That has happened over the years. So, because people have been put in the total disillusion, they find it difficult to really get to know who is saying the truth and who's lying. And politicians over the years have not proven different, quite all right. You will agree, I will agree with them. But then the fact still remains that there are some examples of good leaders in this country. And you just go through their track record to see something similar. You see, if somebody like Peter Obi must have heard and listened to the yearning and cry of the people and said, look, hey, let us do these things like this. This is a practical example. I've done it while I was a governor in my state. Nobody, I didn't owe anybody pension. In fact, he got intimidated at a church. When a woman called him that you say you are a governor and you are praying, you don't have a right to pray. She challenged him. And that's what good governance is. He said, man, what did I do? He said, you are owing us pension. You've not paid us. You know, say, okay, where is your address? Where is your house? He visited her in her house, and then he listened. When they listened, they told him all of the issues about this pension, and he said, okay.
And he cleared them.
He cleared them. So these are practical examples. So this particular issue of what he has been able to do was what he saw in his visit to the northern part of the country. He has been able to meet with the people directly, synergize with them, and listen to their cry. And they now say that, look, this is our challenges. In the areas that we need, this is what we need. This is what we're happening. There were areas that we went for over 25 years. Those people have not seen potable drinking water. And how much does it cost you to have water in this particular area? And that is one of the reasons why majority of our localities have been neglected. We neglected them completely and given room for them to become tools in the hands of those who want to perpetrate crime. So in that case, we need to go back to the drawing board. How our leaders have been able to do in those past years. And it has helped out in that regard.
Yeah, going back to the drawing board, what I'm actually getting at, or rather what that man, one of the respondents, were trying to get at was the fact that it is not the first time politicians are coming together. And looking at them, through perhaps their DNA as politicians in Nigeria, he said they're one and the same. He cited an example. He said, we saw what happened in 2014. that gang up that ousted the PDP, the collaboration between between CPC, AFCA, faction of PDP, ACN, and all of that. They are beds of strange, bedfellows they call them, isn't it? They came together, and the song then was that we want to rescue Nigeria. In the end, when one of them got it and a number of them could not, and when they realized that they're out of the equation, for instance, they went their separate ways. Some of them went back to their political parties and all of that. Okay, another time now for them to come together. Isn't this what they call deception? They see it as deception.
It was the word that you used that keep on giving me gang up. Gang up. But collaboration is a more better word to use. But when you say gang up, it's like I say probably people are just trying to say, okay, we'll do everything that we have to get you out of power, whether it is right or it is wrong. But in this case, it's a collaboration of good Nigerians who think that these things could be done differently.
Okay.
We are talking about individuals who have been able to prove themselves beyond reasonable doubt and in the time in which they have opportunity to lead. Yeah. And you cannot fault because the records are there. I'm talking about a presidential candidate who have been able to exemplify himself even in the state. When he noticed that the students themselves were in 26th position in WAEC, he took them to first position. And the most important thing that you want to learn in this regard is that he was able to have contact phone numbers from the secondary school prefects, every school. So what I'm trying to exemplify here is that there's a word in Edo that they used to say in the short way, they say, "Toknadu." When you talk, you do.
Practical
things
engagement,
that you do.
Practical application of governance practice.
Exactly. So when he said, this is ABC that I'm going to do, and I practicalize it. Yeah. So give me the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, the benefit of the doubt. We have Paul Ibe, join us via Zoom, as I said earlier. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sophia.
Right, okay. Yeah. Yes, we've had Yunusa Tanko. I don't know if you listened to our report earlier with the Nigerians also reacting to this development, the meeting of your boss and his former running mate, Peter Obi. I don't know if you listened to them.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I was only involved with the last 5 minutes of the discussion or thereabouts.
All right. There is a number of concerns. Some of them saw the move as a welcome development. In fact, they said it's very strategic, it's timely, considering the situation in the country. But others felt that it may not change anything. The same people were on the ticket 2019, and then they go their separate ways and tested their strengths, and now they are coming back. Some say because they lost, to the APC and all of that. How would you respond to those concerns?
I mean, through the years, there have been, alliances, coalitions, either before, during, and even after elections. So it's nothing new, not just locally here in Nigeria, but but elsewhere. The politics in Israel is steeped in in alliances, in coalition. So it's nothing strange. What is happening is even at this particular point in time, as we are speaking, Nigerians are getting themselves engaged, in alliances. There are coalitions of Nigerians. Nigerians have come to the inevitable conclusion that they're being served the wrong, end of the stick. That what they offered, as their mandate to this, administration, or what this administration succeeded in, in snatching, in grabbing and running away. It's not, serving their interests. So there is that consensus, among Nigerians. And also Nigerians are looking forward to an opportunity that will, see the back, of this administration. So clearly, the time is right. It's apt, to have this conversation. And I mean, I know the excitement, following that visit. But like I told, some of our colleagues in the media, His Excellency Peter Obi is no stranger to Atiku Abubakar. I mean, they have interfaced, over the years, even apart from in 2019, when he was his vice presidential candidate. So when he goes visiting, it should not be anything strange that there is nothing that says that because he's in another opposition party, he cannot, go visiting, somebody that he had interfaced with over the years. I mean, that's ludicrous to suggest the list.
Right.
So
Okay.
Nigerians are anxious. They're looking for an opportunity, to form a coalition. That will see to the exit of, this administration.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Beyond
Tanko
that,
has said it. The times are difficult.
Yeah.
People are suffering.
Yeah.
Poverty is rife. Inflation is at 3%. Food inflation is 40%.
almost.
There have been increases in, pump price, fuel, over 200%. In electricity tariff, over 200%. And what they have is a mega 35% increase, in the salary of civil servants. It's not a takeaway, take-home salary, because that salary cannot even buy a half bag of, rice as it is now.
But Paul, the conversation here is that among the ordinary people is that in whose interest is all of these permutations and conversations around the need for an alliance? Because your principal, was part of the alliance that ousted the PDP, which he is now running under its platform, 2014, he was part of the gang up. Dr. Yunusa doesn't want me to use gang up. He was part of the collaboration that ousted the PDP under that arrangement. And here we are, after the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari, he also left and go back to the PDP. Some say, why should this continue to happen? Each time he lost election, he talked about coming together.
Well, if Nigerians have, come to the conclusion, that they are not getting the benefits of, what they had hoped to get from this administration, in place of renewed hope, they are getting renewed hopelessness. I mean, I believe that Nigerians also are in the best position to know exactly what they want. And from the conversations, that we hear, both, in the communities, in the media, Nigerians are very desirous. They are anxious, for some form of coalition, some form of coming together, that will give strength, that will strengthen the opposition. As it is now, the opposition parties are, they're in their little corners. And if they remain the way they are, it is very clear that, the ruling party will head or tail, will continue to have the day. So what do? You need to pull your strengths together. You need to pull, resources together. You see, there have been alignments and realignments in politics. It's a feature of politics. There will be alignments and there will be realignments. And whose interest? It is the interest of Nigerians, the long-suffering Nigerians. Let's speak to the Tinubu administration and let's not go too far. In the last 1 year or thereabout, what have we had? It has never been this bad. Never been this bad. There's a lot of suffering. There is gnashing of teeth. People can barely have, before we used to say 1 square meal. It is 0 square meals. We have seen heard of situations where people are even, eating food, rummages that are meant for animals. What are we talking about? Let's not stretch, this, debate. The whole idea is to ensure that we stop, this drift. Stop this drift. This, destruction. To our, our socioeconomic existence. That's what it is all about. And Nigerians will inevitably, be the better for it.
Okay, you're talking about pulling strength. Some will wonder why this didn't happen in 2023. Take, for instance, we're looking at the figures. Your principal pulled 6,984,520 votes, representing 29.7% of the total votes, while Obi was able to garner 6,101,533 votes, representing 25.20%. Now, if you put together these figures, perhaps ought to give them some mileage. You talked about the reason why Peter Obi had to run separately at another forum. But then Nigerians will want to know why this alliance talks now after 2023.
That should not be the conversation. Not why it did not happen in 2023. The conversation should be how. How do we ensure, that we stop this nonsense, this destruction to our, to economic existence. That is what is important. It didn't happen in 2023. Yes, perhaps maybe the factors were not in place. But I believe that all of the actors, including His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, have had time, to reflect. And I don't think that he started talking about the opposition, coming together, having an alliance and all of that out of nothing. He must have reviewed the situation, reflected on it, and believed that it is about time, that the opposition parties, pull their strengths, join forces, they are strengthened, ahead of, future elections. I think that's what the debate should be about. And we shouldn't be looking, back at why it didn't happen. Yes, it didn't happen at that time because the factors, were not there. Possibly now the factors are there. And it's up to the actors, to make it real because Nigerians are, looking up to them.
Okay, making it real. Back in the studio, Dr. Yunusa Tanko.
Yes.
There has been concerns also among the respondents in that report of how this is going to be possible, looking at the fact that these two gentlemen, although they run on the same platform in 2019, but have separate, leadership ideology or background, so to speak, or philosophy. They are wondering how, they will be able to galvanize their thoughts together or fuse their leadership or governance philosophy at this point in time. And also, to some, they are looking at the structure. Perhaps if there is possible, possibly there is an alliance in 2023, 2027. Now, how is it going to happen? Already there are, conversations around who deputized for who and all of that. There was a survey recently by one of the national dailies which indicated that 70% of the respondents would have loved to see Peter Obi perhaps emerge, the candidate, and Atiku Abubakar back him, either as a running mate or provide someone who will run with him. What's your take on all of this?
Okay, there's an agreement to fight for the common person on the streets.
Okay.
Demand for accountability, be productive, and delivering of the goods of democracy, dividend of democracy to the people. These are agreeable facts. And also to empower the people from the grassroots. These are issue-based politicking, which is one of the things that has been far away from us for a very long time. Because many people were just more interested in their own pocket. Just like somebody was defining this particular situation. He said this particular situation we have a tax on the economy. Tax economy.
Tax economy.
Tax economy.
An economy of taxation.
Taxation.
Yeah.
That is,
but the government is reversing. It's revisiting its thoughts.
But the ill has already been done. In Nigeria, it's very difficult for you to withdraw some of the things that you've done. If it was possible, the price of fuel could have been reversed.
Well, the government is being commended for listening to people. At least it has the listening ear.
If they had listened, they wouldn't have embarked on some of the things that they've done in the first place. It has caused more harm to the people than even reversing it. You can't take something back, just like when you vomit and you swallow it. You can't take everything in. There will definitely be some of the things that will be left. And those residual ones that are left in the ground are the ones that's already hurting the people as it is now. So people are really in pain and pang, as it were. So, be as it may, the government need to look at some of this, do a kind of a visibility study and think through before you make pronouncements. So that when you make pronouncement, the pronouncement will be effective and the positive one on the hands of the people.
Yeah.
So as far as we are concerned, these are indices and issues that we all of
should
us
form the
agree.
basis for the alliance.
For discussion.
Yeah.
So the issue of who become who at one particular point in time will be determined at a later date. It's very, very clear. But the Nigerians are looking for us to have a confirmed and attitudinal change as to the quest for power. The quest for power shouldn't be something that it must be me. It doesn't really matter how old or how it does have to be me. So I will do everything I can to me. So what happened to I can make you or I can support you because I know you are capable and you have certain indices. We cannot all be in government at the same time.
Yeah.
So we must reverse and think of this attitudinal area. So it would be hurting to tell any one of these particular leaders that you have to be this and you have to be this. No, it will not. This is not the right time for such a discussion. It could have been, look, let us get the attitude of the Nigerians on the right side. For example, if we are supporting them to be independent and be self-independent, as it were, both economically, in health and all others, it will give them the opportunity to select the right candidate and vote for the right person. But not at this particular point in time when they are in pain and pang. A little bit of 500 naira can make a difference in somebody's life. And that, of course, will manipulate the vote, and ended up you have probably semi-big leaders that some of us, with all due respect, have at the moment.
Right. Well, one of the drivers of this alliance talks, your ally, if you like, one of your co-travelers, Professor Patu Toby.
He's my leader in this particular so no co-traveler.
This said that the renewed alliance talks is actually late. It should have happened long before now. There's expressing some doubt, over. Is it to say that even within the political figures pushing for the alliances, there is a crack?
There's two different dimensions to this issue.
Okay.
When you talk about merger, it's a different ballgame entirely. It's like a rebirth of a new political party. When you talk about alliance, it's like bringing your strength, I bringing my strength, let's work together. Then we can decide the political party that will be the vehicle that we want to use. These are two different entities. We've tried very hard under the leadership of Professor Patu Toby to get close to having a merger. I was part of it. I was the head of the sub-secretariat of that particular committee. And we got close, but we got caught up with time. So the merger didn't come into existence. Today, as we are, it's very clear that most of the political parties are having internal party challenges. Very strong one. And those particular challenges can lead them to even to election in 2027 passing through, because many of these particular cases will be in court because some people have been able to hold the party in their jugular, in their block, or permit me to use that word. And so it becomes so difficult for them to wrestle themselves out of that. And then the other political parties are also having internal squabble that absolutely unnecessary. And then because of ego, that it had to be me, I have to work without even looking at the interests of the generality. These are issues. And these are issues that have to do with even with court cases, as the case may be. So now, if you are a candidate that believes that you want to win the election for the interest of the people, you want a very safe haven, safe vehicle that can take you. When you take a crooked vehicle that has a one leg and all of the engine is not going, you will not even get to your destination. So the needs now will come to that. Look, we have already identified this particular problem. Let's work around something that can be profitable and advantageous to all of us. All we need is just to be sincere to ourselves that Nigerians need good leaders, and we have them in abundance. We shop for them.
One of our respondents in that report talked about it, the sincerity of purpose. But let me transport my deductions from your submission to Paul Ibe. Paul, Dr. Yunusa raised a concern, raised a point, just a while ago. And this point is that the need to have a reliable platform in the first place that will deliver this alliance, if you like, or the result of this alliance. The PDP, which happens to be the platform of your your principal, is in that category of internal crisis, in perpetual, if you like, crisis. It's in the hands of some people holding it to jugular, and all of that. Could it be a reason why your principal is looking, ahead, for instance? Are Nigerians likely to see him pull out of that party any soon?
It's, it is a battle, between, forces, that want to pull Nigeria back drag it down, strip it naked, so to say, and then forces that are, trying to ensure that, we recover whatever is left of Nigeria and try to, have a reset. And, my friend, Tanko alluded to, this is not a time, to start talking of who gets what or who takes what. This is a time, to show sincerity, to show a commitment, and then to be able to mobilize Nigerians along this line. And then every other thing will be added on to that. Because the truth is that, if we have come to that conclusion that, the opposition, parties stand to benefit from, being together, okay? The question is, how do we go about that? And all of the modalities and the strategy for achieving that, can be worked out, but there must be an agreement in principle that we need one another. That is what is more important. Yeah. And then as they go along the way, they're going to talk. And I think there'll be give and take, because if it is about Nigerians, it means that you're ready to make sacrifices, to ensure that at the end of the day, this, idea, comes to fruition. This is what it's all about.
Right. Okay, to give Nigerians hope, because some of our respondents in that report also talk about it, they make this submission that they would have loved to see your principal, for instance, do the needful, in terms of providing the support. Has been contesting for presidential election for quite a number of years now. Even though he's still also indicating interest to run in the next election, but they felt he should have, provided a platform, or rather, create, a platform where these new ideas could be harnessed. I don't know how you're looking at that.
Let's not do the convenient, which is what we do back then in those days in school. You don't know the answer. You simply giraffe to the person next to you and you just, write the answer, QED. You're working from the answer. Let's not work from the answer. The truth of the matter is that Atiku needs Peter Obi, His Excellency Peter Obi, and the other, elements in the opposition. And they also need Atiku Abubakar. That is it. Once we have that understanding, like I said, in the process of the negotiation, the talk, because that's what politics is all about. Nobody ever hands you anything. You must have to, negotiate. You must have to talk. That is part of what this process, will be about. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a win-win, situation for all of the opposition, parties.
Right. Okay, Dr. Yunusa, okay, so rounding up, the talk is beyond, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. A number of other political figures are involved. I know your principal has been towering, as you said, reaching out to like minds, the likes of former Senate President Bukola Saraki, former Jigawa State Governor, Sule Lamido, and so on. It means it's a larger picture. Can you give us a little bit of, the thinking? Okay.
Like I told you, coming from his visit on the Ramadan fasting period, getting closer and getting to know the people and their pain and their pang and all of that, and then the assessment of what has happened, where he donated 10 million naira, as the case may be, as just a short gap to help assist him. He come to realize that it's something that he cannot do alone. And if you look at it critically well, His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is a leader who has been the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and who is leading a contestant who contested under the PDP. He's from the Northeast. Alhaji Sule Lamido is from the Northwest. And Bukola Saraki is from the North Central. So you see, and all of these are the building block that form the northern part of this country. You cannot deny these particular leaders of having a widespread contact. If all of these gentlemen work together in the area of connecting and showing purposeful leadership without you being in government and say, look, this is what I can do to assist. This is what I can do to assist in this regard. Together with all of us work together. It will be an opening for anything to happen because politics is dynamic. So having those particular reasons form a contact point for all of these Zooms, so that we can work together in the direction, because the actual reason for governance is actually delivering of good governance to the people. So even if you are outside the government, if you have the resources, you could do that. So and these are some of these practical examples of what leadership is all about.
Okay, let me get the final thoughts from Paul Ibe. Paul, we have 30 seconds for us, to give us a rundown. You did mention that there wasn't much, details concerning this meeting. What would you tell Nigerians, in terms of giving them hope? What should they expect, and how long will this conversation continue?
Shafia, this conversation will not be had on TV or on radio stations or on newspapers. It will be, the discussions will be away from there. My friend Tanko knows that exactly. And, what is important is that you will not know how far you can go on a journey until you set forth. And I said it, all the leaders, from, various, divides and, need to begin, to talk, with themselves on how to make this, possible. That is what is important. That will give hope, to Nigerians.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul Ibe, spokesperson for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, for your insights, even though you hold some of them. You said they are not for public consumption. So we appreciate your participation on the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Right, I'm back in the studio. We also appreciate Dr. Yunusa Tanko. Perhaps I would have loved to give you some seconds, to also give us your final thoughts.
Oh, well, my thinking is this. We need to balkanize INEC. It's very, very important. Not for only for politics, but for the interest of INEC itself.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the starting point. Thank you very much, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, for your informed perspectives. And viewers, this is a wrap on today's edition of Daily Politics. Do join us tomorrow, where we'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. Until then, on behalf of the technical crew and the entire production team, I'm Shafiu Suleiman, thanking you for investing your time with us.